Good morning, welcome to Morning Outlook. This is Kim speaking on Monday, the 2nd of September. So, I've literally been away for 2 weeks and not looked at a monitor, not looked at a chart, not looked at much in the way of news aside of what we see on the normal TV news, and even that I've looked at very little. So I've come back and I'm sort of got some blinkers on at the moment, so bear with me. I will do my best to update you, but certainly we'll be looking at what's going to be happening today. I can do that easy enough. Monday 2nd of September. It's a bank holiday in the US. That's a good start, isn't it? And Canada, so Northern America, there we got a bank holiday. I would expect things to be a little bit quieter in the afternoon on that basis, but not all banks close, and well, some transactions continue through, but all the same, we've got a bank holiday there today and nothing else in the way of news. So that'll let me get in gently and start having a good read up and catch up with what has been happening. What I can see though is the technical, so we'll run through what's happening here and what I can see, and take a reading from here. So starting off with the euro dollar, and what have we got here then? So we've seen higher lows coming through here previously, leading into the move into the monthly R3. It went all the way into the R3 before coming back down and closing below the R2, which is not uncommon when we've seen moves into these sort of levels of the probability. It's only a 7% chance of, or around about 7% chance of hitting an R3. It's 3% probability of closing above the R3. So you can see the probabilities are working out pretty well here. Anyway, so as we move into this month, we got the monthly pivot not that far below, and could provide a decent amount of support if it gets down there. At the moment though, we're seeing the markets I say flying up, but they're certainly moving quite quickly on the shorter time frames. I can see here we've already seen a reasonable move. So we're going to have to click through all these and do that because I haven't opened this at all. What I can see on the 4-hourly obviously is lower highs, lower lows there. It's there's quite a bit of a correction. Can't see what the support is on this 4-hourly time frame. It's not really showing. There was a quarterly pivot sitting there, but it's broken that. It was sitting around that quarterly pivot there. Let's just have a look at the lower time frames here again. Once I've done this once, that's it. Okay, so Friday came off pretty well towards its S1. Eventually would have hit that S1 level. Today, well, we'll see what drives here. But what we're looking at in the sort of shorter and intermediate time frames is obviously downside. It's whether they'll stick. The daily picture, I'm looking from a daily picture, and we've got that monthly pivot below, so close below. It could be a draw at some stage, so I wouldn't write that off. With no news coming out today, we'll see what happens. We've got the new weekly pivot above us. So you can see on this 4-hourly chart, there's a weekly pivot sitting up there. That in itself could be a point of sell. So with what we've been seeing, so it could be a sell point with the monthly pivot being a target. That's what I'm seeing at the moment. Now things can change quite quickly. I might find something that's suggesting that we look at things slightly different, but for now that's what I'm looking for on the euro. The pound, well, I see there's all doom and gloom in the government since I've been back. What happened to that happy skippy Labour Party? That we're going to do great things. I almost started playing in the God Save Our King for a moment at that point. Anyway, beautiful move up into its R2 on the pound here over the week or so, but again failing away from that, not a great shock. Again, we've got a monthly pivot, a new monthly pivot, which is some way below. That's quite a way below. With the strength of what we've seen here with the pound, maybe would have expected the pivot to be a bit higher. But anyway, lower time frames though, we've got to be a bit careful here. We have seen some sort of correction. Previously, I was looking at corrections like this and expecting upside, and well, we could if it starts breaking the structure that's here. But at the moment, the structure on this intermediate time frame is lower lows, lower highs, pointing to wrong things. Lower highs, lower lows, whichever way you want to put it. Lower highs, lower lows. So the structure is still basically to the downside. We can come up and catch the weekly pivot, the same as the euro could occur before rolling back a bit. So we could get another reaction. We're just running into the daily pivot here on the lower time frames, looking at a 60-minute chart, but we could be pushing up, catching that weekly pivot and continuing this move down here. I've got to fully read into what's been going on. I like to know what the news is, why things have changed a little bit here, but at the moment, purely on a technical basis, this is looking on the softer side, as is the euro. Dollar yen. So dollar yen had a good beginning of the month last month, and then it's done pretty much nothing else here, as it's not managed to continue through, and that it started off again the week before last week. It's been last 3 days of last week. It's looked like it's struggled and running back into and hit the new monthly pivot. Now this is a key point, because if it can react off of this, well, perhaps we will see some further strengthening. Quite ugly on the lower time frames here. Really is sort of choppy on the 4 hours. Has at the moment got the higher lows going through it again, so weakness for the yen. And well, it's a right old mixture we're seeing here. On the hourlies here, the higher lows, higher highs is really what I'm seeing. But we've come back to the underside of the pivot that's sitting there. I'm just trying to work out what pivot that. Oh, that's a new. Of course, we've got new quarterly pivots coming in, have we? September, October, November. Oh no, we haven't. That's not a new quarterly pivot. What is that then? Trying to work out what that level is. It's something else I'll put on there. Certainly is a pivot level. I'll fix the 251. I'm not too sure what pivot I've popped on there. We just come back a step. Oh, okay. It's the daily pivot I've popped on there. Okay, sorry, the monthly pivot there. So it's just run back to the underside of the monthly pivot. Okay, so the monthly pivot's sitting there. Okay, we'll see if we get a reaction. We've got an untouched daily pivot. If it is going to fail and turn around here, I'd expect that to happen. Alternatively, if it just carries on this current price action breaking back above the monthly pivot, then we could have a little bit more action to the upside. As I said in the first place, the monthly pivot could be the point of turning around. Aussie dollar. So what with the Aussie dollar here then? It's more consolidated in some of the other markets. The first thing I noticed on the dailies here, it's held up pretty well. It's really the weekly pivot here is, well, it got caught late in the week and it's now run into this week's weekly pivot. Now, if it's been rolling off like the others and pulled back to its weekly pivot like this, I'd be looking at the short side of it. The way this has been holding, it's a real mess. It has put lower highs in, it's then put a higher low in, so it's on this lower time frames. Okay, these can be a little bit more ignored sometimes, but often they're the sign of something to come now, or something bigger to come. So more uncertainty here. the way it's going. It has been chopping. It's not a clean market to trade, so I'll personally step clear of it. The Canadian dollar, on the other hand, this was the chart I was greeted with first thing as I switched all my systems back on. What a gorgeous move to the downside there. It finally continued, and it's heading right the way back to its quarterly pivot. Consolidating where it is at the moment. It's a bit like the Aussie dollar, so the commodity currency is not moving quite to the same extent as what we've seen elsewhere. Quite messy. It's really messy, isn't it? For now, I would steer again. It's one of those I'd steer clear of. You can only look at this, or I would only look at this from a swing perspective. And with those huge spiky bits of action, I assume there was some news out Friday. It's not a lot. Okay, last Friday. Okay, not sure what's happened there. Whether there's some adjusting going on, there must be some news out. I'll have a look later. But you would need some healthy stops on this. Well, I'm saying healthy stops. It's probably not as bad as I'm thinking of a breakdown of the lows here. So let's just run again. Oh, so that's not too bad at all. I thought it'd be a lot bigger than that. Anyway, so you'd need stops well away from the price action with all this whipsawing going on here. But for now, I would leave that. New Zealand dollar, similar-ish to the Aussie. It's maybe a bit of a cleaner retrace here. Again, run into its monthly R2 and fired back. Today it's just continuing that move, but it held up pretty well whilst the euro and the pound was coming off last week. I'm just looking here. It does look a little bit softer than the Aussie here. It's sort of looking like it's having it's had a reaction, a very small reaction to the weekly pivot there, and its daily pivot. Now this has got the lower highs in it. It's a bit more clearer than what we're seeing with the Aussie, but certainly just that bit softer. Now I don't favour the New Zealand dollar that well, so it's sort of gone up on the coattails of many of the other markets with a weakening of the dollar as opposed to the strengthening per se of the New Zealand. Anyway, this could come down and find some support into that quarterly pivot here. Actually, that's the yearly pivot on this chart, so that's the yearly pivot it could come back to it down to. But I'll look at that in more detail. Swissy, finally regained some strength here. Not necessarily what the Bank of Switzerland would want, or Swiss National Bank even. At the moment, it looks like it could just be running up. I would be very wary of that new monthly pivot being in its way and providing some resistance. Weekly wise, last week couldn't manage to get back up to its R1 where its pivot. It already hit its S1. Found that support off the quarterly pivot there. That looks like the quarterly S3 it was running into there. So reaction to that. Anyway, weekly pivot looks like it could be on a turn here. It's broken the downward trend structurally. It hasn't really put much in the way of higher lows in there, so I wouldn't be too keen on taking the long side. The short side, on the other hand, just looking at the lower time frame, it's double topped. Let's see what happens post 8 o'clock here, or properly post 8 o'clock as opposed to 1 minute past. As the morning goes on there, they could be coming off some more. Quite a bit of strength in the last day or so, last couple of days. Need to look at that a little bit more, but maybe something to look at. Okay, that's pretty much it for me at the moment here. Looking at the cross pairs, just a quick look at some cross pairs. So, Euro pound. This really has the pound certainly strengthened against the euro here, or the euro softened against the pound, whichever way you want to look at it. Good whilst I was travelling in Ireland. It's just questionable whether it's going to run off southbound again at this rate, and finally break these lows. And it certainly broke those nearer term lows there, but there's a series of lows that are sitting at 83, 84, somewhere in that region. 83.80. So we've got the S1 down there. Be interesting to see with the reaction this week on this weekly pivot here. See if it reacts and we do get a continued sell-off there. Okay, I'm going to leave it there on the currencies. Let's have a quick look at the other markets. We'll look at gold, as I tend to do that next, if I can find it. Where you gone, gold? There you are. So gold, well, this is slowed up and chopped up, so a bit more like the commodity currencies themselves. They've sort of followed suit here, and it's the same sort of pattern with not much great action there last week, quite choppy. Certainly not a clear sign there, but certainly originally showing the dollar weakness right the way through. So nothing I want to be doing on that. Western Texas is going to have a look at oil. Ugh. Okay, so this is forming a bit of a wedge pattern here, which is a pretty unreliable pattern to be trading. They do tend to break either way, so it's a 50-50 bet on the breaks, and so often we see a break and a retracement back into the center. The few times they do work, well, I say the few times, as I say, it's a bit 50-50, but so often we see them coming out, pushing quite a way back in before they roll out. This is looking, well, this is not quite so usual. If you, well, I say that the dollar has been gaining a little bit here, but when we see a weaker dollar, normally we see stronger oil prices. There's quite a correlation there, but well, we are seeing a stronger dollar and weaker oil prices in the last part of last week, so that makes a little bit more sense, I guess. Either way, it looks like it's got into a bit of a range overall. Just sort of looking at the market on the bigger picture here, it's quite rangy. Ooh, some ugly old moves there during the weeks. Obviously very susceptible to news and potential risk in the Middle East here. Lower highs, goodness knows what's caused that. Need to read some more about this before I even look to trade it. I would be interested potentially if it could get back towards its daily and monthly pivot. That one is there, so if they come back up to that, that could be a selling point, bearing in mind what's happened. But as I said, personally I need to read a little bit more onto that. S&Ps, so the S&Ps have been holding up quite well. Made a decent recovery during the last month there, back to near their all-time highs again, not far away from them. Wouldn't take too much to run into that. Of course, at that point we would get probably selling pressure coming in as sellers start looking at the double top pattern, of course. And one thing I say with this, I'm just sort of looking at where I guess it has had a higher low there, but a break of these highs here could see it push up quite strongly. But for now, this morning, it looks like I've run into something that's quite choppy. Actually, last week as a whole, very choppy market. It looks like it was some news-driven data coming through there, the way it's moved here. So I need to look at that a little bit clearer, but for now, regardless, it looks quite choppy and ugly. The tech, let's have a look at the Nasdaq. So this is a bit weird, not going quite so well. Lower highs, lower lows running through this. It's looking softer to me, although we did put that reversal signal there. The pivot swing came in at that point, but then we had a negative one which didn't trigger. Okay, maybe it's going to hold up better, but for now it's just that was last month's pivot sitting there providing the resistance towards the end of the sessions. Okay, the end of the month, so we'll see what happens with that. It doesn't look anywhere near as good as the S&Ps for sure, but all things can change quite quickly. Okay, looking at the DAX, so do bear with me this morning. It's like looking at some charts for the first time. It's been a while since I looked at these. Just looking at the DAX has had a decent run up there. It's taken out the previous highs there, looking pretty good. We're seeing a bit of selling in the short term at the moment. It could just come back to its weekly pivot here and find some support, but that's had a good time of things. I should hope that some people have had some good trades off of it. It has had its whippy movements at the end of last week there, I notice. What time was that at? 7 o'clock on a Thursday. That's obviously some US news, is it? Come out then. I'll have to, as I say, check back on this and see what's happened. Okay, lower highs here. Looking a bit bitty, but as I said, on the short term they're a bit bitty. Look, I'd look for that weekly pivot, see what happens with the price action on it. Okay, that's pretty much it for me today. As I said, it's a bit of a weird one because coming back, I won't be trading this morning with any money. I'll be looking at the potential this morning for sure, but it takes me maybe a day or two before I get into actually putting money on the line. I like to get fully immersed back into the markets, reading up and catching up with some news here, financial news that is, as opposed to other news that's sitting out there, and get a bit better idea. But we'll see what September brings us. It can be quite a slowish month, but it doesn't mean to say it will be. So we'll see what's ahead of us. For now though, as I say, personally I'm going to come back to these markets and look at them in a bit more detail, read the news a significant amount and catch up with what's happening. I really want to pick up on the fundamental news, to be fair, to see what's out there that's potentially changing things. Right, I will leave you there. I'll catch you in the morning, normal time tomorrow. Take care. Bye for now.